consumer prices in the U.S. are going up, rising at their fastest rate since 2008. The Labor Department says over the past year, prices have increased 4.2%. That is the fastest since the Great Recession. You may have noticed the increase in prices at the grocery store. The Consumer Price Index found food prices were up 2.4% compared to the same month a year ago. The biggest price increase was seen among used car prices. They rose 10% compared with the previous month, likely because supply chain issues are slowing the production of cars, leading more shoppers to turn to used vehicles. The Colonial Pipeline is blaming a cyber attack for a bottleneck in its supply chain. The pipeline has resumed operations after it was forced to shut down over the weekend. Shortages at East Coast gas stations have led to some people hoarding fuel. In a statement, the company said it would take, quote, several days for the product delivery supply chain to return to normal after some of its systems were offline for days. For more on this, I want to bring in Daniel Yergin, Vice Chairman of IHS Markit and the author of the new map, Energy, Climate, and the Clash of Nations. Dan, welcome. It's great to have you with us. So when a situation like a cyber attack on the Colonial Pipeline or a ship stuck in the Suez Canal happens, how long does it take the supply chain to recover?
Well, it's taken several weeks for the supply chains to recover from the Suez Canal. I think on the pipeline, it's going to be mid next week before it's fully operational, because gasoline moves through the pipeline at 3 to 5 miles an hour, so it's not a speedy thing. But I think, Tanya, as you were describing, all of this just shows these bottlenecks in supply chains are touching consumers in so many different ways right now.
And of course, we've seen supply chain issues in all sorts of places recently. Just ask anyone who has ordered furniture online or an appliance during the pandemic. Why are these sorts of supply chain issues happening now? What is particular to this moment that's causing them?
Well, obviously, the Colonial Pipeline was a specific situation, although these ransomware attacks are becoming much more serious, and this was a digital disruption. Most of it has to do with what you've been talking about, the changes in the economy. First, when people were locked down at home, they were buying a lot of furniture, they were buying electronics, and that led to this surge of imports from China in particular. And ports are clogged. There aren't enough container ships to carry them across. So we're seeing actually the biggest delays since people started measuring delays. Then on automobiles, going to used cars, there's a shortage now of computer chips, partly because people are buying a lot more electronics because of 5G for phones. And so suddenly the automobile industry around the world doesn't have enough computer chips. We've lost about 3 million cars being produced, and because lots are empty, people are buying, the price of used cars are going up. You know, Tanya, you mentioned furniture. Just anecdotally, it's 3-4 months sometimes for a couch. They used to take 3 or 4 weeks. And one of my colleagues who actually works on the automobile industry, researching it, went to buy an SUV, a small family SUV, and they told him it's going to be about a 4-month delay. And that's running through our economy. And if I can just add one other thing, it's the economic recovery now. Household savings now are about running at a rate 3 times greater than before. And this year, we're seeing that the U.S. economy will grow at 6.7%, which means by this month or June, we're already back to where we were in 2019. And people have a lot of money to spend now in their pockets because of recovery, savings, stimulus checks, and so forth. And so the demand for everything is going up, and so are prices.
It's so interesting, and it's so apparent. You know, these supply chain issues are clearly frustrating for consumers. Like you said, they have the money, they want to buy these things. You know, our executive producer is just saying she ordered a bed in February. She's not going to get it till September now. You know, so what can we do to what can businesses do to, you know, not anger their consumers, to sort of move this along or somehow manage expectations?
Yeah, well, Tanya, I've heard about 4 months. I've not heard about 8 months for a piece of furniture, but I think it is the same problem. There's not a lot that can be done. It's the ports are clogged. There are 100,000 containers in ships off Los Angeles waiting to unload. Trucks are in short supply. I think it's just going to take time to work this through, and then you have accidents like a computer chip factory in Japan catches fire, so you lose more supplies. So as I think we go into this recovery period, there's going to be waiting, and that's a problem for business, and it's a problem for consumers. And every business is rushing to try and find alternative supplies. This will even out, but it's going to take some. September is not a bad time to look for it. I think for the automobile industry, it's probably not till early next year.
Wow, that is a lot. That is a lot of time, because that was going to be my next question to you. With, of course, obviously a lot of this is pandemic related, and with everybody slowly recovering from the pandemic, you think it's going to take that long before we see a turnaround with supply issues?
Yeah, I think for the automobile industry, they're seeing this as a long haul. In other areas, what you were talking about in that previous segment about people coming back into the workforce, there are a shortage of people working now in ports. There's a shortage of truck drivers. And as people do come back, that will be one of the things that will alleviate the pressures on the system. But I think as we go into the summer, brace yourself for more delays. And I saw in the graphic you had, even chickens, there's a delay, just because the surge of money coming into the economy and the reopening and such a pent-up demand to shop, to spend.
And Dan, from the consumer's perspective, adding insult to injury is that not only do you have to wait longer for your product, the price is going up, right?
Exactly. I mean, there's been this whole period of saying, oh, there's never going to be inflation again. It looks like inflation. We're seeing prices go up because there's not enough goods and people looking for them. The one that was the most striking that you had was 10% cost for a used car right now, if you can get the used car you want. So we are going back into a period of prices going up, and consumers have been accustomed for so long to that not happening. But I think you have to see this is, in a sense, part of it's painful to say, but the economic recovery to the COVID crisis.
Right. All right. Well, Dan, Yergin, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your insight.